Hey, what's good, y'all? Welcome to season 3, episode 124 of the Focus LBK show. This is Robert Jenkins, and today I was just kind of wondering and thinking and asking myself, what is the point of Black History Month? I mean, to put the bottom line up front, I don't think we even really study Black history. And I think that's because it has nothing to do with our present reality and because it's taught in a painful and depressive way that turns off creativity and stifles initiative.
Get ready for news and views from Lubbock, Texas, USA. What's going on and real talk with people who move and do things. This is the Focus LBK Show with your host, Robert Jenkins.
Yeah, I really do think that. I think that we don't really study Black history because it's taught in a painful, depressive way, and that it's taught in a way that has nothing to do with our own personal day-to-day lives today. And I say that as somebody who is a Black history buff, or used to be a Black history buff, and it kind of pains me to have to say that. I mean, I'm the cat that back in 91, 92 went to Lubbock High in the LEAP program. I took that program to get over there to Lubbock High. And one of the classes that I took, it was like a magnet program. I took Black history taught by Mrs. Gloria Carter. And Miss Carter, man, she schooled us to everything. She had all the books to read, and I read quite a few of them. She took us on a tour of Black colleges. I mean, we put on all kind of plays and all kind of programs and stuff like that. It was all about Black history. I was all about it. When I went to college, I kept it up. I kept studying Black history really on my own time because I didn't feel like they taught it good. And I went to a Black school. I went to Wiley College, and I felt like they didn't teach Black history right. Yeah. So the point I'm making is, for many decades now, I've been a student of Black history and somebody that enjoys learning about it and thinking about it. And that's why I feel like we should teach it differently. I remember a few weeks ago, and one time a few weeks ago, and another time several months ago, maybe even a year or two ago, I was talking to a good friend of mine and somebody who's a local community leader. I don't want to say their name because I didn't specifically ask him if I could talk about this. But anyway, we was talking, and she was telling me about how back in the day here in the LBK, they used to have Black History Bowls or Black History competitions at local public schools. And she said they stopped doing these competitions because the Black kids barely knew any Black history, and the white kids was constantly beating them. Now, I know that sounds shameful and sad, but that's one of the things that makes me think that we don't teach Black history properly, because our own kids don't remember what we teach them about Black history. And I think that's because we don't teach Black history in a way that makes it relevant for their everyday life in 2026. And we teach it in a way that's shameful and depressing and nobody wants to be associated with. Just remember that you were victims. Remember slavery. And you know, another reason that I think our kids don't remember Black history, and I hate to say this is sad, I'm going to say it, but I think it's because so many of the children in our community can barely read, if at all. Now, I'm not going to get into that because that's a podcast for another date and time. But, man, we have other community leaders that I talk to. I'm talking about real people in the real community that really do stuff, that say they see firsthand that the kids can't read. Now, I think most people that I see who teach and think about Black history, to me, it seems like they do it in a way that's basically just picking at the scab, picking at a wound. They keep repeatedly reminding people of the brutal parts of history, not so they could teach us anything, but just to keep us in pain and upset and angry. You see, when you are in pain and upset and angry, you tend not to think critically. We make choices based on emotions, and when we do that, we become easy to control. All they got to do is give you a problem reaction solution. Make something happen over here, so you do this and go over there, which is where they wanted you to go, and now they can do this because you went over there and set it up for them. They control us. I think that's true. I think that leaders, both good and evil, I should say, know this. They know how to use problem reaction solution. They know how to lead us around by our emotions. And I think they do design a lot of this stuff that we see on TV, especially on the videos and TikTok and all that. They design that stuff, I think, a lot of it to keep us in our feelings, as they say. So, yeah, I don't think we study Black history in a meaningful way if we just highlight the pain and suffering all the time. I think we do this, some people do it under the guise of telling it like it really was, keeping it 100, telling the real story. Yeah, the thing is, we already know how it was. Everybody out here that's hearing this know exactly how brutal it was. We don't need nobody to remind us about it over and over again. Everybody knows about the brutal parts of Black history. There's been movies and books and TV series dedicated to picking the wound of slavery and Jim Crow. They exist to do that. And I personally be wondering why it is that they exploit our pain in order to get us so upset like that. And I realize I think they do it because it gives them control over us. Like I say, you get upset, you all in your feelings. People can make you just bounce back and forth like a pinball, like puppet on a string. And I personally think that we should study Black history in a way that preserves the memory of our ancestors. Now, that sounds cliche, but when I say memory, I mean keeping the image of our ancestors tucked deeply into our hearts. Not just the terrible situations they was in, but I'm talking about really seeing them as people in a way that helps us understand how they overcame. Not just what they overcame, but how they overcame. It's like a blueprint. You can look at it and see what happened. You can look back and see the thought processes and the struggles and the failures and the successes. Instead of constantly highlighting the pain, we should focus, LBK, we should focus on the strengths, the strategies, and the spirit that our ancestors used to overcome those troublesome, weary times. To me, we should teach it in a way that highlights the resolve and the ingenuity and the faith of our forefathers, because that's what kept us alive as a race. We forget that. I think we seem to forget it. And I think that's why we are floundering and failing by almost every measure as a people. We've been taught that instead of doing what we're supposed to do and get out there and helping ourselves and making it happen, capping, instead of doing that, we're supposed to go vote for so-and-so over here and over there. And that way they can tax us and trick us into slow motion slavery. And in so doing, somehow they'll eventually make a program that's going to help us. Yeah, that's why would you go that direction? Because we forget that our ancestors usually had no reliable forms of government support. Welfare and all that stuff, that didn't exist until like the 60s, the Great Society of Lyndon Baines Johnson. That's when all that stuff started. 1865 up to about 1960s, not quite the 1960s, but almost the 1960s. It wasn't none of that stuff. Basically, I think we should teach Black history and think about Black history, and that means think about ourselves in a way that is relevant to what we face today. The hardships and stuff that we face today. And you know what? I'm going to have to say this. The hardships and the struggles that we face today are essentially nothing, especially compared to what our ancestors already overcame. Least I can say it is whatever we facing today, it ain't due to anybody out there oppressing us except for maybe ourselves. Now, when we teach history, I think we need to focus on the memory of our ancestors' personalities, their life lessons as individuals, not as victims. And I think that we should teach and think about ourselves as potent human beings who overcame vicious chattel slavery and Jim Crow. This way of thinking about it naturally encourages questions like, how did they do that? What did they do in that situation? Why didn't they do it like this? See, to put it in a nutshell, I think we should teach and think about our history the way the old cliche tells us to, as a rear view mirror that helps us navigate the road ahead. Y'all know when you're driving, you definitely got to keep your eyes up and your head on a swivel, hands at 10 and 2 or whatever. You got to do that because you have to safely move forward. You got to know what's going on in front of you. But at the same time, even when you see something happen in front of you, you can't just navigate any kind of way if you don't know exactly what's happening behind you. You got to be aware of what's going on in the rearview mirror to move successfully forward. That's the way you teach history. And I think to close this off, I think we should be very cautious of people who always out there seeming to try to weaponize the study of the past in a way that evokes shame and outrage. Because again, that shame and that outrage can be easily used to manipulate us. And not only can be, I think it frequently is easily used to manipulate us. So the question of what's the point of Black History Month? I think there is no point to Black History Month at this point in time if you keep just talking about, oh, we were slaves and all the Night Riders and the Ku Klux Klan and all the, oh my God, the slave whistles and the what do you call them things? The blankets with the maps and the woven into them, which is probably a myth, by the way. All that stuff. If we talk about all that painful, depressing, wearying stuff, that stuff that grinds your soul down, and you ain't extracting no lessons that are useful for everyday life and existence out of it, then of course nobody's going to listen to it. You want to keep teaching like that, you'll keep getting what you get, which is a community that is in decay because they are no longer nourished by the waters of the past. And they're no longer nourished by the waters of the past because people have discovered that you can get rich and powerful if you keep them angry and upset about the waters of the past, drowning in the waters of the past instead of learning how to navigate successfully down the stream of life. Okay, I beat that to death, but I think y'all do see where I'm going with this. The point of Black history is that Black history is pointless if it's not used properly. Anyway, thank you for tuning in today. This was season 3, episode 124 of the Focus LBK show. This is Robert Jenkins signing off. Peace.